Who knows how I'm gonna afford it? Oh fuck. Hey guys, happy Monday. What's going on? How's your week going? I want to know. Tell me in the comments below what was your favorite part of this week. I had this poster on over there on this wall, but there's nothing behind me, so I was like, I'll just stick that there. It's a map of the subway map in Manhattan, in Brooklyn. It's cool. I like it. I like this area, but soon, guys, I officially have an apartment for the fall semester. I know. It's crazy. I know. Who knows how I'm gonna afford it? But you know what? For now, I can. That's what the 20s are about, right? Being broke, you know, and wanting to do things but not being able to do them, right? My mom made me put together a list of like the things that I'd be buying each month, and you know, it's like groceries, cigarettes, that I need to I'll save so much money if I stop smoking, and also, you know, not get cancer. Social money, like if I want to go out or like get something to eat, but I think I'll probably cut that down. And also, like, I'm really not that social. Like, I'm not a very social person. I like going to a bar every once in a while, but like, I'm not very social, so it shouldn't be too bad. The biggest thing for me is like getting food out at Condados. If you've never been to Condados, it's so good. This wasn't what the video was supposed to be about, but I thought I would announce that I got like the paperwork the other day of like, hey, congratulations, you have an apartment. And I'm like, oh my god, that's crazy. I've always lived in a dorm, and I loved living in a dorm because it was so convenient, and being on campus was really nice. And you were constantly seeing people that you knew, and it was really comfortable and good. But I think at this point in my life, I'm just like at the point where I just want to be able to do what I want to do, see who I want to see, and yeah, just like figure out that independent life for myself. But I'm hoping that I'll be able to find a job at the end of the semester, or the beginning of the next year, and like, I'll be a college graduate next year. It blows my mind. Segueing from that, actually, what I want to talk to you guys about today is people who I have met over the past few years who I seriously think I needed to meet. And they're people that if I didn't do certain things, I would have never met them. And I'm not talking about just like, you know, friends that I met at college. I'm talking about like, not random people, but people who I cross paths with for a certain reason. Let's get into the actual point of this video. Okay, so the first person, I actually got this idea because I was looking through my journal the other day, and I was like, oh, there's a whole page of ideas here. The first person on my list, and this kind of is like in chronological order, is Julia. And I think I talked about her in a past video. I think I was talking about like books I was reading at the time, and she gave me the book called The Way of a Peaceful Warrior. And I started reading this when I was probably 16 or 17, and I didn't finish it until I was 21. And I think there's a reason for that. She gave me the book and she said, you need to read this book. You also need to watch The Matrix, which, funny story, she told me to watch The Matrix, and I ended up watching the second one by mistake, like fully through. And then I was looking something up, I don't know why, and I was like, oh my god, I watched the wrong Matrix. It's so embarrassing. So I've actually never watched the first Matrix. So Julia, I worked with her when I was, I think it was 16 to 17, maybe to 18. I worked at a nursing home in my town, and I was a dietary aide. So I basically like cleaned the kitchen, I served food, I was on like the line to serve food, and I like put together snacks for the residents and like brought their snacks to them. And I remember Kathy, I used to have to like open her milk for her because she couldn't open it herself, and I'd put the straw in for her, and she would get peanut butter and jelly on wheat bread. She loved it. Anyway, it's besides the point. Julia was just this person who, she was so sweet, and she trained me the first few days, and she was just so nice to me, but in a way where it was like she was almost like a mentor to me. Like, she went out of her way to give me advice about like random stuff. Like, we would just be talking about like anything, and then like we would just end up talking about life and just like what I wanted to do, and she was always asking me about my goals and everything, and at the time I really didn't know them, but she kind of like pried a lot of things out of me that I didn't even know about myself, and it was really cool. And she's a really strong person, so she's someone who I really think I was meant to meet, because as I was finishing up the book has a really good ending, and it's like an ending that wraps everything up together so well, and it's like a full circle. And I was like, wow, that was like perfect timing for me to finish the book. Like, it's taken me 3 years, and like I was meant to finish the book, because at the time I was doing really well. Not that I'm not doing well now, but this whole self-isolation thing is taking a little bit of a toll on me, but it's okay. But at the time I really like was getting my shit together, and you know, I was thinking in different ways, and I felt so much more positive, and just the way that the book ended, it just really reflected on how I was feeling at the time. She was a mentor to me when I didn't think I needed one, but I did. And that time was a really hard time for me. That age was a really hard age for me, along with everybody else. I mean, 16, 17, and 18 are hard ages regardless. But my parents had just separated, and I was in like a really weird spot. And I didn't ask for help, but she gave me help, and it was really nice. So thank you, Julia, if you're watching this. This next person actually is... It's funny, I don't even know his name. But he was my Uber driver. We had one of the deepest conversations I ever had, and I'm not someone who goes out of my way to talk to my Uber driver. I never am, because it's a little awkward, and not even that it's awkward, I just don't want to like be annoying. I asked him how his day was going, and he said it was good, and I asked him what he did for a living, and he was like, yeah, I coach people. Basically he coaches people on being charismatic, and you know, it could show that he's a very charismatic person. And I was like, that's actually really cool. Like, that's a really cool, like, you know, job to have. And you know, like, do you enjoy it? And he was like, yeah, no, I really do enjoy it. It's rewarding. And I basically asked him, I was like, well, you know, do you have any tips for me on, you know, being more charismatic or more relatable to people? And he was like, eye contact is such a big thing. And that's something that I actually really have a hard time doing. With people I know, it's easy, but for people I don't know, I have a hard time making eye contact. And I think that's like a generational thing too. But he was just talking about like eye contact is so important, and just, you know, being engaged with that person, you know, like making them feel like you care. And in most instances, I do care what people are saying to me, like mostly. Sometimes I don't, like every human, but most of the times when I'm in a conversation, I care about what that other person has to say. So I think I might have that down. I told him like I'm a very anxious person socially, and I'm always kind of thinking, you know, what are people thinking of me? Do I look awkward? And he was like, yeah, most people are thinking that too. So if you're talking to somebody else and you know, you're thinking that way, they're probably thinking the same way. And so you kind of just have to break down that barrier and just, you know, be yourself and listen and respond to just regular conversation. Just make sure, you know, you're having an engaging conversation with someone, which I think I've gotten better with, not just because of him, but because of growth and because I've talked to more people, I guess. But social anxiety is weird because I'm capable of being social. But it's like this fear of just like people like judging you for everything that you do. Like I just constantly am thinking like, oh God, like, am I talking weird? Do I look weird? Are they like, do I look like I'm thinking about if I'm thinking about like, it's just, there's a lot of things going through my head when I'm talking to somebody. So especially in big groups, meeting him was really rewarding to me, and you know, him teaching me and making me feel less alone, and that in that situation. And a big thing that he told me actually was that I was telling him about he suggested a book to me, and then he asked me what books I was reading, and I told him I was reading a book about Buddhism, and we started talking about Buddhism and the origin of Buddhism, and then he actually said that with his family, his daughters, he read somewhere that something really important to do throughout your life is you read these books, but any book that has like an extreme like effect on you and makes you think, you have to read that book 9 times, and that will become part of your thinking process. And he's like, you kind of have to, choose wisely, like books that you really think would help you in your life. He was like, basically, I have my daughters, they have 3 books that they continue to read over and over again. Obviously, they read other books in between, because that would be pretty boring if you just kept reading it over and over again. But he said that if you read something 9 times, that it ends up being a part of your subconscious, like the way that you think. And even after reading some books one time, I start to think differently. So like, imagine if you keep consuming that over and over again, and it just becomes a part of you. Like, just think about like learning how to speak, right? Like you're constantly learning new words and different ways to like react to different things. So if you're consuming those words and those ideas all the time, eventually it'll just become natural. The third person I have on here is Tori. And Tori, I love her. She's such a joyful person to be around. But Tori is, I met her working for a startup company, and she is just someone who I didn't know that I needed, like mentor-wise. Like, she just kind of, when I first started working there, we just had like this instant connection, this instant just like back and forth friendship, and it was really nice, because I personally had never been in a situation where as an intern I felt like just like part of it, but something stemmed from that work relationship, and it was really nice. And she, with everything I needed, I would just ask her for advice, and she would always go a step beyond what she had to. Like, I would text her and we just have conversations, and I'd be like, oh, like, I'm really, freaking out because I think, I need a job. And she's like, all right, let's figure this out. Like, let's sit down, like weed through things. Like, I'll look at your resume. And it was just, it's such a selfless thing to do that, to be that way. She's just a person who's just always there for me. And I never really had to ask. It was just like, if someone just like venting to you, and she's like, oh no, I'll help you with that. And it's like, that's just such a selfless way to be. And that's just something that I admire in Tori. And she's just someone who has been there for me without me asking. And that's just something I really value. And she, I think, had a big part in me growing and being honest with people and saying what I wanted to say. And because she's a very upfront person, like, she just, she says what she wants to say, and not in a mean way, just like she knows what she wants, and she knows, what she wants to talk about, she'll talk about it. And just having like engaging conversations. And she definitely helped me grow in a way that I never thought I could. Like, at one point I remember being like a sophomore, and it was right before I got the internship with the company, and I just felt like, oh, okay, like, I feel like, I'm old, I'm mature, this is the way I'm gonna be forever. Little did I know that, baby, you keep growing. Like, you keep growing to the day you die. I don't think there's ever a moment when you're done growing. Every day, every new experience, every new person that you meet changes the way that you think about things. This person I have to talk about is Channing. And Channing, fucking love her, Channing. I have mentioned her many a times on my channel. I have like 2 videos of her that I can link below if you're interested. But Channing is someone who I actually met through, so my 2 friends, they went to more or less, it was like a street fair in downtown Pittsburgh, and they ended up meeting Channing, and I think they ended up getting her card. They followed her on Instagram, and she owns a vintage shop, and they were looking at her stuff that she had. And I had a project to do, and I was like, oh, I need to interview somebody for, I don't remember the specific, it was like, I think maybe it was for like a small business or something, I'm not sure. But Kayla, my roommate, she was like, hey, you know, like, you can talk to this girl, like, she has her own business, and, you know, like, I'm sure, she's very nice, so I'm sure, you know, she'd be willing to talk to you, and I was like, okay. So we met at a Starbucks, and I brought my, like, Zoom recorder, and I was recording her, and we had a great interview. She was so nice. It was great. And just, you know, it was really easy to talk to her. A lot of people in that situation are kind of hard to talk to, but it was really, really easy to talk to her. And I was like, wow, this is awesome. And then, you know, after we had the conversation, and I interviewed her, I was like, wow, you know, like, I love the way you speak, and, you know, like, it's really cool to see what you're doing and everything. And, you know, I have like an upcoming project where I do like video and photos, so, you know, if you're ever interested in that, we could do that. So we ended up doing that, and we just get along really well, and I ended up inviting her to like a networking event, and so it's just like these constant things. And she ended up asking me if I wanted to go to a hair show to do a video for them, and I ended up doing that, and now we're like just friends. And it was just someone who I would have never met if it wasn't for certain circumstances, and she's just a really good person to have. We have so much in common. We were sitting at a bar together and just talking about the way that we deal with anxiety and stuff, and we're so similar. I had mentioned something to her, or maybe she mentioned it to me, I don't know, but basically we were talking, and she was like, oh my god, that's the same thing, like, we have the same thing, like, we do the same thing. I'm like, yeah. And it was weird because I wasn't even surprised. Like, I feel like I gravitate toward people who are like me, and more I end up finding people who think the same way as me and deal with anxiety the same way as me. It's just crazy to see that, like, I a lot of people in my life think the same way that I do, and for years I didn't even know until, you know, I started talking about it, and they're like, oh my god, like, it's the same way. So I think I gravitate toward people who are like me, which is in a way a little weird and spooky, because, like, sometimes they'll be talking about something, I'm like, oh my god, like, that's exactly how I feel, like, we're both fucking crazy. No, but it's yeah, it's really cool that, I guess, like, subconsciously I end up connecting with people who are similar to me. Those are the people who I needed to meet over the past few years. Julia was when I was 16 or 17. The rest of the people I met during my college experience. But relationships and friendships are so valuable because you're constantly learning from other people. And I don't know, it's just super rewarding. And I'm so lucky to have the people in my life that I have, and even people in passing who I have had in my life and who have had impacts on me. Just like the way I think, or even just like, you know, at the time they made me have fun and made me happy. And, you know, I'm just really thankful for everybody that I have met and the people that continue to be in my life. This week, maybe think about somebody who was maybe in your life for a little while, or still in your life, or someone who really has impacted you, and just send them a thank you. Or even if you haven't talked to them, reach out to them, or just write down what they did for you, and not even just like, you know, maybe they didn't actually do anything for you, but they have done something for you because they've made you think differently or feel differently. But I'm sure you all have somebody like that in your life, because I think those people come into your life when you're least expecting it, or not expecting it at all. Well, thank you for watching, and I will see you next Monday. Bye.